Shalom, shalom. I just need to grab a towel. I am dripping with the waters of Miriam Torah. I have been deep diving, snorkeling, just a little wet. Just need to dry off a little bit. Literally been swimming in the sea of Miriam's Torah. Welcome back to Miriam Session 2. And today we're going to be plumbing the depths of the feminine waters. So there's two parts. There's feminine waters and there's bitter waters. Okay, so we're going to start with feminine and move into bitter. But of course, we're going to reach elevated waters, right? Because you all know the secret that in order to rise, there is that journey that with great courage we undertake. And very much the secrets of healing, the secrets of the well of Miriam. So what is this deep connection between Miriam and water? Right, we learned that Miriam's name is Mayim with a Resh. Resh is leadership, is Malchus. And what's interesting is that, everything in Kabbalah is relational. It's all everything in relation to everything else. So feminine in relationship to masculine. There's only gender when you're talking about duality, when you're talking about how you're giving and receiving in relation to another. So normally when we talk about the elements, normally fire is female because it rises up. It's hot. It warms. Could be constructive, could be, God forbid, destructive. But now within water, there's Miriam is representing the feminine aspect of water, but water intrinsically is actually a masculine element. It represents kindness, and she's there in the company of her two brothers, Moshe and Aaron. So we're going to be understanding Miriam in the context of Moshe and Aaron and in the context of water, which is normally Torah's chesed alashona. Water is pleasure, water is kindness. And what is all the deep significance here? So we're going to be drawing on so many different layers, the Maharal, the Psukim, Rashi, the Midrashim, the Gemaras, the past, the future, the present, the Zohar, Likutei Moharan. Look at your source sheet. It's really a watery feast. So what is this concept of lower waters? So it's related to the concept of the deep to home, the depths, right? You're in the right place. If you're in the Nexus school, so deep, everything is so deep. This concept of the depths, plumbing the depths, drawing, excavating, drawing it out, bringing it out. The essence is the waters rise and the waters yearn. So who knows, the very first time we talk about lower waters, feminine waters, we've spoken so much about Adam and Chava on the sixth day of creation. We've spoken so much about the sun and the moon, masculinity and femininity on the fourth day of creation. But we had to wait all the way to the Miriam course to talk about the second day of creation, the apparent pain of the second day of creation. It doesn't even say tov. It doesn't say the word good on the second day because there was pain in the creation of the waters. Actually, the waters understand everything was created in potential on the first day, but what we learn about the waters in the second day, if you look at your source sheet, source 24, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Rakia B'toch Hamayim, let there be a firmament in the middle of the water, between the water. Vihi Mavdil Bein Mayim Lamayim, to separate between the water and the water. Vayas Elokim aser rakia, vayavdel bein hamayim asher mitachas larakia ubein hamayim asher me'al larakia. So it's all parallel. It's just like those first two great luminaries and Adam and Chava's creation. They were first androgynous. They were first du partsufim, joined, fused by the back. So too the waters were originally unified. And then the second day of creation, Hashem split them. He made a machitza. He divided them. And of course, like we're used to, it appears that that femininity got the raw deal. Femininity got the lower waters. And they started to cry. This is why we cry. Vayihi chen, and it was so. Vayikra Elokim lerokia shamayim, vayihi er vayivoker yom sheni. That's the second day. And it doesn't say and it was good. Because Tov represents, we learn about Tov, lo Tov hayos ha'adam levado. The essence of Tov, Moshe, we learned last week, when he was born, Yocheved saw that he was good, that he was light. So the creation of goodness is coming through this painful schism, this painful break. And the waters cry. And that's why seawater is salty, because it's like tears. And then it says in the Rabbeinu B'chayai, okay, I'm going a completely different order, but that's what happens when you go swimming. You don't know which way you're going to swim next. Source 22. Bris Kusala Melech, Misheshesh Yemei Bereshis. Hashem made a treaty with the salt. What pain salt represents, the salty water, the tears of the sea. From the 6 days of creation, Shehuftuchu Mayim Atachtonim. This predates the 4th day of creation. It predates the 6th day of creation. Hashem made a bris with the water, the seawater. Hashem promised the seawater that it's going to be used in the Beis Hamikdash, in the holy service, brought as salt with the korbanos v'nisuch hamayim b'chag, and with the water libations in the festival of Sukkot, the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, the Simcha of the drawing of the waters. These were the waters of the depths that, of course, David HaMelech encountered. No surprise, David HaMelech is a descendant of Miriam, as we're going to see. And we know that the Gemara says, the Talmud says, that anybody who never saw the Simchas Beis HaShoeva never saw joy, never saw celebration in his life, obviously. Because if you don't go through the lower waters, if you don't go through the tears, the seawater, right, the yearning of the Mayim Tachtonim, you never come to the greatest joy. It's the way. But Hashem promised, because it says in the Medrash that the Mayim Tachtonim, Nikru'u Mayim Bochim, they have another name. They're known as the crying waters. Lovely. And why are they called crying waters? Right, I'm going to Cape Town next week. I'm going to probably, Mirza Hashem, I hope it works out, give a class next to crying waters, the sea waters. Why is it called that? As soon as Hashem divided lower waters from higher waters, the lower waters started to cry. וזה שכסוב מבכי נערות חיבש בספר איוב, אמר רבי אבא, בבכי נספרש המים התחתונים מן העליון. It was through tears that the lower waters parted from the upper waters. אמרו, אוי לנו שלא זכינו לעלות למעלה להיות קרובים ליוצרנו. Woe is to us that we can't ascend to above the division, the rakia, to be close to our Creator. I think that's a good reason to cry. What do you think? I think that's a good reason. Ma asu, hey izu panehem. They got holy chutzpah, azus de kedusha. Ubik'u tohomos, ubikshu lalot. They split open their depths and they started to rise, to rebel. This is the shoresh of rebellion in the Torah. The root of rebellion. It's actually a very holy thing. So Hashem, first he had to deal with this crisis. He had a crisis on his hands. These feminine waters were tough. And Hashem had to shout at them, right? A little bit of fear they needed because they couldn't mess up his plan of creation. They couldn't revert the world to tohu vabohu. Hashem knew what he was doing. Very similar to Havaya like kapara al shem yatati asayareach, don't you think? Right, bring for me an offering that I diminished the moon. Hashem had to shout at them so that they wouldn't wreak havoc. Brings another verse from Nahum, Go ir bayam vayavshehu. Hashem stopped that nonsense and he screamed at them. Sometimes, even if rebellion is coming from a good place, we can't let it go on. We have to sometimes shout at those we love so that they will change their behavior because there is a higher reason why we are relating to them in a way that's making them feel rebellious. But nonetheless, Amar lem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then Hashem said, once he got things under control, so to speak, Hashem said, Ho'il v'lichvodi asiten kol kach, ein lahen rashush l'mayim ha'elyonim lomar shira ad sheyitlu rashus michem. Hashem, because it was for my honor that you did this. What's called likvodi, for my honor? Because you wanted to be close to me? Does this not describe femininity? Because you wanted to be close to me, it was really for my honor. Hashem saw into the kernel, the essence that it was. He says, from now on, the higher waters will not be able to sing Shira, praise Hashem, until they get permission from the lower waters. Hashem basically rebalances the system, and he gives the power to the lower waters, that only when they give permission to the upper waters, the masculine waters, to sing Shira, as we know from Parak Shira, that every element and every creation and every animal is really singing praises to Hashem at all times in vibrations that we don't recognize. They may not be the words we use, but they have to ask permission from the lower waters. The lower waters have to say, okay, you can go now. So Hashem basically balanced out the power. Reminds me of the Gemara in Tainis, that Hashem says, we have a song about that, Lo avo Yerushalayim shal maila ad she'avo Yerushalayim shal mata, right? You have to go through the lower to get to the higher. Shene'amar, as it says, Mikolos mayim rabim adirim mishpereyam, umahem omrim adar b'marom Hashem. It's from the waves, the roaring, tumultuous waves of the sea that gives permission to the higher waters to praise Hashem in the heights. Below Od, and not only that, Ela she'atidin atem likarev al gabei hamizbeach, you are going to be brought in the temple, the melach with salt, v'nisuch hamayim, and the water libations of the simcha space of Sho'eva. So Hashem is secretly very pleased with this rebellious streak of the lower waters, and Hashem understands their pain. He understands their pain, and he is honored by the desire. So in this Rabbeinu Bachaya, which is quoting the Medrash, it's teaching us maybe where Miriam learned her magic. We're going to see how Miriam was able to heal broken hearts, to mend broken hearts, her own bitterness and the bitterness of others. So there's so much to learn from Miriam. Before I forget, I want to connect it to, I saw that Rav Nachman brings it in the Likutei Moharan, and I did a little bit of research when I was trying to understand what are Mayim Tachtonim, what are these lower waters, and I came across the Tikkunei Zohar, source 23. So beautiful. Ulatata ihi hai nukuda maim nukvin. Ule'ela maim dechorin. So it's very beautiful. It brings a beautiful, beautiful simon. You'll never forget this. That the Aleph of the Aleph Beis is actually made up of a higher Yud and an upside down Yud at the bottom, like a mirror image facing the other way, and a vav diagonal across that divides them. Says the Rav Nachman, based on Tikkunei Zohar, that the vav in the middle is like the rakia. It's the firmament, it's the mechitza, it's the barrier, but it's also what joins. What divides is also what joins. The upper waters, the yud, and the bottom of the aleph, that upside down yud, the lower waters. Right? So this whole story of the upper waters and the lower waters crying to come back to its source in the upper waters above the rakia, it's all told as a story in the aleph. Be'emtzeuse gavna da aleph. Right? And that's the secret of the aleph. This is where Chassidus brings, and it filters all the way through into the writings of Rav Dessler and so many other Sifrei Machshava. We call it Isarusa de Le'ela and Isarusa de Latata, right? Arousal from above. We've mentioned it many times, I'm sure. And arousal from below. Ani ladodi v'dodi li, right? Many times Hashem is waiting for the Isarusa de Latata, for the lower waters to express yearning, to express desire, to express interest in connecting to the higher upper waters. This is the wisdom of relationship. This is the essence of femininity. Take a look at how the Maharal puts it. Earlier on your source sheet, whoever can help me find the sources gets extra credit. Source 17, Gematria Tov. Fascinating, the Maharal speaks about Miriam in such glowing terms. Be'arnu lacha beperka kodem. This is from Netzach Yisrael, chapter 54. Inyan ha'shivai v'ha'it damut shel asher yesh ben ha'geula rishona u'ben ha'geula acharona. Right, so the Maharal is teaching us how similar the redemption from Egypt will be to the ultimate redemption. Right, we've quoted many times that the Arizal says that our generation, right, it bears mentioning again, this is our official course, that the redemption of the Ikvasa de Mashiach of our times is a gilgul of the generation in Mitzrayim, and all the Nishmos, the Neshei Yisrael, together we form the Neshama, the giant Neshama of Miriam, says the Maharal in another place. Amnan yesh l'cha lavin ma shehaya mitztaref Miriam al Moshe v'Aaron. So why of these three leaders was one feminine? Why couldn't you have three male leaders? Why two male, one feminine? Asks the Maharal. Leficha haya od go al shlishi. There was a third, I'm skipping a bit, a third redeemer, who Miriam. Neged Yisrael shehe mishtokikim al Hashem Yisbarach, to embody and express the feminine aspect of Klal Yisrael that yearns for Hashem, just like those lower waters. Lakach haya gol zen nekeva. So this Redeemer had to be female. Ki chibur zeh mitzad ki Yisrael shehem nechshavim kamo isha lakadosh baruch hu b'kol makom. Because all the Jewish people are like a woman to Hashem always. Anyway, he mishtokikim el Hashem Yisbarach, yearning, pining, longing for Hashem. Amnam ayidei Miriam haya be'er. Because of Miriam, what was her gift to the people was the well. Ki yab Yisrael shehayim mishtokikim el ha'ala el ha'ila. This desire for the lowers, for the highers, just like the nekeva longs for the zachar, the female longs for the male. The be'er flows and goes from below to above. Like it said, when they praised the well, Ali be'er, rise up, O well. It's the bringing of the lower realms to a higher place, like Miriam, to elevate, to raise. The water deep in the earth that flow above. just like the Anan came from above the cloud, which was the gift of Aaron, the condensation of water gathers in the clouds and falls down from above to below. It's mityaches al hashemayim. It's called a cloud of the skies. But the be'er, and obviously the man came from above to below, but the well is the desire below, comes from below. And that's why all women in Torah are called wells. The be'er is a symbol of femininity. As it says in Mishlei, Shtei mayim bibarecha. It's giving musar, it's giving an instruction to men. Drink water from your own well. Stay with your own wife. The wife is the well. The well and a woman always jive with one another. They're synonymous with one another. V'havein hadvar me'elu kihem ne'emanim ma'od ma'on ein safek bahem. These are as true can be. These inyanim, the Maharal was so passionate about bringing this to the world, explaining the difference between the classic feminine capacities and masculine capacities. And here he waxes lyrical about the well. So just getting a sense of these lower waters. Suri says, makes me think that Hashem and Torah are the male redeemers influenced by Knesset Yisrael, the feminine. Yes, this interplay, this beautiful interplay. So let's work through some of the more revealed sources. We jumped right into the deep end there, literally. But let's get some qualities for these lower waters, for this well, these well springs. Fascinating descriptions in the Medrash. Okay, so looking at the layer of Medrash, Maseches Shabbos, the Talmud says, Daf Lamed Hey, Amar Rabbi Chia, Harotze Ler'os Be'era Shel Miriam, if you want to see the well of Miriam, Yaleh L'Rosh HaKarmel, go to the top of Har Carmel, Yitzben, look out, V'yir'eh Kamin Kavara Bayam, and you'll see this big shape like a sieve, a giant sieve in the sea. V'zohi be'era shel Miriam. This is the sea of Miriam. Amarav Mayan ha-metaltel tahor. It was like a portable, ever pure, ever purifying wellspring. Zeu be'era shel Miriam. This is the well of Miriam. So different sages describing the be'er in different ways. I found it fascinating that it was described as a sieve, because a sieve is something that is sifting and filtering what's coming up from the earth. So maybe let's talk about that at a different time when we get even deeper into the well, about these inner waters, why like a sieve. Okay, the next idea, so it's a wandering, ever-purifying spring, can never be contaminated. Does this sound familiar? It purifies. The be'er reminds me of how we described Dinah, that no one was able to contaminate her purity, not even Shem. And so too, the be'er of Miriam is what purifies. It was like a mikvah itself. Incredible. The Gemara in Tainis says, Shlosha parnasim tovim amdu li Yisrael. There were 3 sustainers, 3 nurturers that stood for Israel, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, and each one brought a gift. Shalosh matanos tovos nitnu al yadam. They each gave an incredible gift. These gifts were incredible. Right? If you learn about the mun, how it could taste like anything you wanted it to, and it always came the next day to teach the message of faith, and how 2 came on Erev Shabbos, and how subtle it was, and incredible gift of man, of Moshe, And the anan, how it used to catch all the arrows and it used to launder their clothes and iron their clothes. I think I need a cloud in my house for all the laundry. And how their clothes, when they were washed by the anan, miraculously grew with the bodies as the children grew. I need clothes like that for my children. What incredible gifts they were. So today we get to focus on what was the gift of the Be'er in the schus of Miriam. Because as we learned that when she died, Tamas Sham Miriam, right after it says, Lo hayamayim le'eda, there was no water for the congregation because the Be'er was in her merit. So let's learn a little bit about this wellspring. What were its qualities? So source 13, it says in the Medrash, Bamidbar Rabbah, Heya chaisa ha'be'er asuya. How was it formed? How was it crafted? Kamin sela. It was like a boulder. Kamin kaveret, or like a hive shape. O kadoret, or like a giant ball. V'haisa mitzgalgelet, it would roll as they traveled. Uba imahem b'masaot, and come with them wherever they went. Kivan shayu zegalim chonim ha'mishkan omed, when they would come to camp while they were wandering in the desert, and the Mishkan would stand still, and all the tribes were encamped around. Haya oso hasela ba v'yoshev la b'chatzar o moed. This miraculously rolling rock would roll and settle itself right in the courtyard of the tent of meeting, the Ol Moed, and the Nesiim would come and they would stand next to it and they would say, Ale be'er enula, rise up, O well. I assume, and then the waters would come up. And it goes on in another place. They would take their next source, Bamidbar Rabbah, Yotes. They would take their sticks, each one for their family and for their tribe, and the water would start to rush with vigor, with power, rushing waters. And then it says the most fascinating thing. A woman wanted to visit a friend who was married to somebody from another tribe or a sister, I don't know. Midegel ledegel, in another shevet, in another camp. Haita mahalechet basfina. She would travel on the rivers that came out of Miriam's well to go and visit her friends. So if you ever need a proof that married women need to visit their friends, you can learn it from the well of Miriam. It brings a proof from Tehillim, Halchu batziot nahar. They went on ships in the rivers, ein tziot elasfinot, that the well of Miriam emitted such a gush of water, ample enough for each tribe, so much that you can get in a boat and you could travel down the stream to whatever tribe you wanted to go visit your friend. So this seems to be like a deep source that no matter how different and distinct each tribe was, each shevet was, the visiting, the connection is encouraged between the tribes, certainly between the woman, and somehow this well of Miriam, sitting by the chatzar, the courtyard of the tent of meeting, the Ol Moed in the center, was able to find the root source for all the zramim, all the streams, all the tribes, all the unique differences between the different families of Klal Yisrael. They were all rooted in Miriam's well. What beautiful imagery. And then it doesn't stop there. The Medrash goes on and it says, V'hamayim yotzim chutz l'machana, and then the water would go out of the camp, umakifin pisa gadola, and it would there would be this big band of flowing water around the camp. Sounds like circle energy there, going around the camp. No wonder why they cried when the water dried up. as it says, Yancheni b'magle tzedek l'man shemo. Did you know that Tehillim 23 was talking about the circles, the water of Miriam's well, umagdilim mine d'shaim, and grasses would grow, and trees, endless varieties of beautiful growth would occur from the waters of the well, as it says, binos deshe yarbitzeni, almei manuchos yanaleni. These waters of tranquility were the waters, the deep well springs of Miriam, and that they enjoyed it. I think it came the first of the 40 years, and Miriam died in the last year, I think. So it was with them all the while. It was a great gift. So just from a midrashic, level, learning about this lower waters, right? That came in the merit of Miriam, right? Gushing from this deep place within the earth, right? And it was something that they had to excavate, they had to dig, they had to sing to it, they had to, right? If you want your wife to bring out those maim tachtonim, you have to sing to bring that water up. You have to raise that water. And to know that it's always there, it's a stable reservoir of this vital energy always lying beneath the surface, even when the stone looks bare, even when the earth looks parched. There's this water deep within the earth, which was part of the festival of the Simcha Space Shoeva in the temple. So, linking all the different roots of the soul together, this mobile well, tapping into hidden reservoirs of nourishment, right? Of the three shepherds, Miriam is this grounded one. She stands on the ground. She knows when they're thirsty. She feels the pulse of the people. She feels their fluctuations. It's this whole feminine ability, which is a gift unique to femininity. So, let's contrast this a little more. Understand a little more what these feminine waters represent. So, a masculine approach is rain, mun, clouds, Moshe, Aaron, descending from above to below. And above represents perfection. It represents the ideal. It represents like the Yud on top of the Aleph, the top half, the upper waters, close to Hashem. Hashem is revealed up there. And then there's this masach, there's this curtain, there's this pargo, there's this partition. We learned about it before, right? There's this tzimtzum, there's this barrier. And then we see the waters, how they show up here. And we see the world, how it appears to us here. And it's a place of tears, and it's a place of longing, and it's a place of exile. So wouldn't you rather be the upper waters? Like, what is so great about these lower waters? If you had a choice, right? We'd also cry. So where is the gift there? Where is the gift there? So perhaps, and I'll need you to help me bring this out. But the lower waters are coming from below. They're emerging from the space that we make, sometimes the cracks of the heart, sometimes it's the broken places themselves. It's the cavity in the rock from where they come out of. It's like the darkest part of the eye through which you see. Emerging from the darkness, from the tehom, from the abyss itself. But there's a benefit to that. What is the benefit of this lower? What is this gift of Miriam that we're trying to feel into? something coming from the heavens. It's coming from so far away, so high. I don't know if you remember the first time you're in an airplane and you're actually flying in the clouds and you're like, I can't believe you're here in the clouds. Like from the earth, they look so high up. And then sometimes you're above the clouds and you look down at the clouds. It's such a out of body. It's so weird. But there's a maila, there's an advantage of being present with the people. This is why the Jewish people needed Miriam. Moshe and Aaron wasn't enough, but they needed somebody with them, somebody feeling their emotions, somebody going through things with them. Like a mother whose baby is crying and she responds to the cry because she hears it, because she feels it. This feminine approach experiences the complexity within and wants to help it grow and develop, but from within it. So some ways we can try to connect to this is, if you think of the Hebrew word for rain, it's geshem or matar, which is like the cloud is high up and it has its target. Every raindrop has its matara, its target. And when we talk about something being mitgashem, something becoming embodied, something fulfilling its potential, it's coming from such a distance and it's very specific. And so too masculine Torah is compared to water, but the kinds of water that comes from above. I brought you the source on your source sheet, that water, Torah is compared to water because it comes from above to below. And so too, we need to be humble to receive Torah. That's masculine Torah. It comes from above to below. Torah's Moshe, Torah's Aaron. But there's this feminine Torah which comes from below to above. So you can think about masculine Torah as like a call. It's very specific. You do such and such halachas, such and such laws. It's like the written Torah. It's what Hashem, it's the given, it's what Hashem gave us. And then there's the depths is called the Tehom, or the Sheol, which is like the deep pit. Comes from a lashon of she'elah, which means a question. It's the perspective of being in process, of not seeing how it's going to come out, not having a target, not having an end goal, not yet being actualized, not yet being fulfilled. Tehom shares the word tehiyah, like tohu, vavohu, tehiyah, which means like wonder. It's like that feeling of curiosity, of thirst, of not being satiated, of hishtokukus, of craving, of yearning, of not yet being there, but wanting it. Right? And this is really the gift of the process. It's the gift of uncertainty versus certainty. And we're not used to calling this a gift. We're used to thinking of certainty, knowing for sure, having clarity as being a gift, and being in the process, just being present for an unfolding, for an emerging, as like, oh man, I guess we have to do this. But we don't see it as a gift. And it is a gift. It's the gift of presence. It's the gift of such deep faith to even be in process and know that even in the dark, the light is there. And the answer is there, even in the question. So it's hard to bring this out, right? This being here, right? As it's unfolding, this presence, even with tears on our cheeks sometimes. And yet, there's such greatness to that. So who speaks to this is Rav Nachman brings this verse from Tehillim, Kuf Lamed Tes. Goldie Michal just posted it for me right there in the chat. We're in sync. Thank you. I don't even have to rummage on my source sheet to find it. It's right there in the chat. Im asak shamayim shamata. Right. If I want, asak comes from the word maskana. I need to know. I need the conclusion. I need clarity. If you want clarity, you'll find it. You know where? In Shamayim. If you go there, Shamata, that's Hashem's there. But it's far. It's like, compare that with the Atzia Sha'ol Hinacha. But when I turn to the depths, to the pit, to the place we never choose to go, Hinaka, you're right there. Mamish right there. That Hashem is in the depths. Hashem is in the present. He's in the deeps. He's in the process. This is feminine wisdom, right? To be there. And that's exactly why Klal Yisrael needed 3. You can kind of think of Moshe and Aaron. They were the doctors. They were the gynecologists. They were going to deliver this baby Klal Yisrael, this baby Jewish people, right? We said that the Mitzrim was like the mother body, and Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, was the birth. They were the doctors to make sure this nation would be born. But we all know it's not enough to have a doctor to make sure the baby's born, but the process counts. And what helps the process is a midwife, is a doula, is somebody who knows it hurts. But she's there to alleviate the pain, to soothe you, to calm you, to remind you you're having a baby, right? These pains are not for no reason. It's part of the process to be there with you. And that's greatness. That's greatness. We don't have to be on the other side already. So, if I send to heaven, you are there. If you go all the way up, he's there. If I descend to Sheol, Hinaka, you are right there. You're even closer. When we approach Hashem in a way of, I already know the answers. What more can I know? You'll find Torah, but it's a Torah that's far. But when we reach out from a place of not knowing, He is right there. Zeh Hayom Asa Hashem Nagila v'nisvachava. In this day, in this pile of laundry, in this teenager that I'm trying to raise with keeping my sanity and theirs intact, right? In this tired day of just trying to keep everything together, right? It's that wisdom, that's faith. It's not just those moments where you look back and you're standing under the chuppah and you're like, wow, I can't believe I got this kid through, right? But it's like, even there. So if you look at source 18, Lukute Maran Tanina Pe Gimel, Tachlis Hayediah, pinnacle of knowledge, and we've quoted this loosely before, but here we have it inside. The peak, the pinnacle of knowledge, of knowing, is to know that we don't know. Shalot Neda, to know that we don't know. All of our knowledge, all of our knowing is to bring us to a place of knowing that we don't know. And that is a form of knowing. And it's an even greater form of knowing than knowing what we think we know. So that is humility. That is be'er. That is feminine capacity for more and more and more and more connection. It's the ultimate receiver. So lower waters rises from below. You can call that this feminine Torah has another name. It's called prayer. This feminine Torah is called prayer. Prayer is feminine Torah because it's yearning, It's asking, it's not knowing how it's going to unfold, knowing it's all good, knowing you want it so much, knowing that your desire is good. As well as these lower waters are also called Torah Shebal Peh. The written Torah is all concrete, it's all closed, concluded, maskanas, but the emergent Torah, the chidushim, yes, Sha'ol has the same root as Sha'al, as in a question, exactly. Right? And perhaps that's why it says, answer the Be'er, any law. She's always asking a question. Even on a feminine, masculine level, she's always saying, can I connect with you? Can I be one with you? That's what the lower waters are saying. It's a question. And that's why it's called the Torah Shebal Peh, right? It says in Petach Eliyahu, in the Zohar, it's called Malchus Peh. The oral Torah is called Malchus. It comes through the mouth, it comes through the question. But it's there to ultimately leva'er as Torah, to explain and expound on the Torah. Milashon be'er. A be'er is an explanation, because through all the questions we are adding the feminine dimension to the Torah. And that's the partnership, that's the marriage. It's the emergent property.